Hi, my name's Eric, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk once again about the Grammys. Cheers! The 2022 Grammy nominations were just announced a few minutes ago, and I'm here to react to them and to give you my personal picks and predictions. I want to say first and foremost that this video is just for fun. I am not a Grammys expert. I enjoy the Grammys, but I also understand that they, like any awards show, can't acknowledge all of the great music that was released in a year. I'm just here to share my excitement for the artists who are nominated and to make some educated guesses. Also, in case you didn't know, some things have changed with the Grammys this year, one big change being the elimination of the secret committees. Before this year, the nominations would pass through these secret committees, which gave the impression that nominations could be manipulated. Now the idea is without these committees, the nominations will really reflect the majority opinion of Grammy voters, but some people are also concerned that the Grammys will now turn into more of a popularity contest. So I'll be keeping all of this in mind as I go through the nominations list, but before I dive in, let me know in the comments down below your picks and predictions. Check the description box for links to lists of nonprofits you can donate to. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my videos go live. Without further ado, the first category I'm going to look at is Record of the Year. In case you didn't know, the distinction between Record and Song of the Year is that Record has to do with more of the recording aspects of the song, as the name implies, has to do with production and performance, whereas Song of the Year has to do with the songwriting itself, the music and lyrics. So the nominees for Record of the Year are I Still Have Faith in You by ABBA. Oh, that is so exciting. Freedom by Jon Batiste, very cool. I Get a Kick Out of You by Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, interesting. Peaches by Justin Bieber featuring Daniel Caesar and Giveon. Right on Time by Brandi Carlile, a Grammy favorite. Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA. Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish, there we go. Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X. Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, yep, saw that coming. And Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic. Okay, mostly not a very surprising category, very solid. Okay, so let's break this down. The first one that stood out to me obviously was ABBA. I actually recently made a video ranking all of ABBA's albums. As you might know from that video, I am a big ABBA fan and I really enjoyed Voyage and this song in particular, so that's really exciting. I personally don't see ABBA winning, but I'm very excited that they're being acknowledged. The other main legacy act in this category, of course, is Tony Bennett. It's not very common that a cover or a traditional pop song would be nominated for Record of the Year, but I think since this is sort of Tony Bennett's last hurrah as a musician, that's really nice that the Grammys are honoring him this way. I don't see him and Lady Gaga winning, but again, I'm happy that they're nominated. In case you didn't know, Jon Batiste is the Oscar-winning composer of the soundtrack to the Pixar movie Soul. He obviously is a gifted musician, but I think the lack of mainstream recognition that he received compared to some of these other nominees puts him at a bit of a disadvantage in this category. Of the remaining nominees, Brandi Carlile's is also the least popular, so I would probably not expect her to win, but again, she's an excellent songwriter. The Grammys have recognized her before, so this isn't a super surprising nomination. The rest of these songs are all very popular. I'm actually a little bit surprised that Olivia Rodrigo submitted Driver's License, presumably to both Record and Song of the Year. I was actually kind of expecting her to submit Good For You to Record and Driver's License to Song of the Year. Regardless, I think she has a pretty solid shot. I think the Grammys do tend to like these big breakout artists like her and Billie Eilish. That said, Billie Eilish won in this category last year and the year before, so could she do a three-peat? I don't know. Peaches was very popular, but I would personally be very surprised to see it win. Kiss Me More I think is likelier than Peaches, but still not as likely as some of these other nominees, especially those by breakout artists or other Grammy favorites. So that leaves 4 songs with, I think, pretty solid chances here. I think this is a very evenly split category, actually. Happier Than Ever by Billie, Montero by Lil Nas X, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, and Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic. I think Leave the Door Open could be advantaged or disadvantaged by its nostalgia. Like, will a Grammy voter hear Leave the Door Open and think, wow, this sounds like the music of my youth or of my parents' youth, and be really convinced by that? Or will they think, this is sort of less original because it sounds like this older music? I think it's extremely well produced, but it could kind of go either way on a voter-to-voter basis. Happier Than Ever was produced by Finneas, who won the Grammy for Producer of the Year, so I think that could put the song at an advantage. I also think the production of it is really interesting. It combines the nostalgia of like 1930s vocal jazz with this noisy, grungy sound towards the end of the song that I think is so explosive and so much fun. I really love that song, actually. category. And then Montero has that interesting combination of Spanish guitar and a hip-hop beat that's pretty original. The song and its video in particular, which I expect to be nominated for Best Music Video, produced a lot of buzz, especially for their queer representation, which I think is really cool. For some reason, my gut is leaning towards Lil Nas X in this category, so that's going to be my tentative prediction. Like I said, not a very surprising category. I have no idea who's going to win. I am surprised by the lack of Taylor Swift, but maybe she'll show up in Album and Song of the Year for Evermore and Willow. And speaking of which, here's Album of the Year. I'm expecting Taylor Swift for Evermore, Billie Eilish for Happier Than Ever, and Olivia Rodrigo for Sour. I would be absolutely shocked if any one of those albums does not make it into this category. So let's see, I'm going to read through here. The nominees are We Are by Jon Batiste, cool. Love for Sale by Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, forgot about them. Okay, a lot of overlap here. Justice by Justin Bieber, and specifically the deluxe version. Okay. Planet Her Deluxe by Doja Cat, very cool. Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. Back of My Mind by Her. I almost forgot that Her released an album this year. You know, she's always a lock whenever she releases something. Montero by Lil Nas X, very nice. Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. Evermore by Taylor Swift, yes, thank goodness. And Donda by Kanye. Okay, interesting. Let's go through this category one more time. I'm going to start off by, as far as my predictions go, eliminating the albums that are sort of least popular or least like a typical winner. I don't see Jon Batiste winning. I think it's amazing that he was nominated. He is getting closer to that EGOT title, but I don't see this happening. It wasn't a very popular album compared to some of these other albums. Not that it was unpopular. I know that there's like a certain stream or sales threshold that these albums have to meet to even be submitted, but I personally would be surprised by him winning or Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga. However, like I said, this is sort of Tony Bennett's swan song, so it may not be that surprising if he wins. I don't see it happening for Justice by Justin Bieber either. It was received positively, but didn't receive quite the same amount of acclaim as some of these other nominees. Going to say the same thing for Planet Her. It was extremely popular. So many of the songs absolutely blew up, especially on TikTok. Honestly, I feel like I've heard most of the album on TikTok rather than in the context of the actual album. But I feel like as far as the Grammys have shown in the past, they like to nominate something that feels prestigious and serious, whereas Doja focuses a lot on fun. She has said that publicly. She wants to make music that people dance to and that makes people happy, which isn't always what the Grammys are looking for. However, that could help her in a pop category or a genre category, so we'll return to her potentially later. I would also be surprised if Her won in this category. She is nominated pretty much every year, but I don't think her album made quite the same sort of splash as any of the three albums that I said were absolute locks. Happier Than Ever, Sour, and Evermore. Montero by Lil Nas X, I think, received slightly less acclaim than those other three albums, but it was also received very positively. I personally, like I said, could see him being nominated in a song category rather than an album category, but again, I could be totally wrong. So that leaves Donda, which I do not see winning. I think it's going to be at least a little bit eclipsed by the controversy surrounding Kanye, and I think at this point it was slightly more of a legacy nomination than a nomination for the album itself, which isn't to say that the quality of the album itself wasn't Grammy worthy, but that Kanye is such a respected artist and has such a strong legacy in rap music that was probably one of the main factors that secured him this nomination. Of the remaining three, Billie, Olivia, and Taylor, two of them are past nominees and winners. Taylor herself is a 3-time Album of the Year winner. Will she make it 4? I don't know. I actually saw some conversation on Twitter among Swifties saying that typically the year after Taylor wins Album of the Year, she doesn't win additional Grammys. Will that pattern continue? I honestly don't know. However, I will say that I'm sure it's very surreal for both Olivia and Taylor to be nominated alongside each other, for Taylor to be nominated with someone who looks up to her and who has credited her as an inspiration, and for Olivia to be nominated alongside her idol. My gut, for some reason, is saying Sour, but Billie and Taylor both have such strong Grammy track records that I wouldn't be surprised if either of them won as well. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in my prediction that Olivia will win in this category. I think the three of them are actually about even. So I'm going to say Happier Than Ever is very likely. I thought it was excellent. I'm going to say that Evermore is very likely. I also thought it was excellent. I slightly prefer Folklore, but I love both of those albums. And Sour is a solid album, and I think the hype around it and Olivia Rodrigo's meteoric rise to fame are going to help her a lot here. So I'm going to say that she is also very likely, maybe like 5% likelier. As a whole though, this category is probably less surprising than it was last year, which is interesting. Moving on now to Song of the Year. Like I said, this is all about the songwriting itself. We have Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran, A Beautiful Noise by Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, no surprises there, Fight For You by Her. That song actually won the Oscar for Best Original Song this year, so that would be really interesting for it to win the Grammy and the Oscar in the same year. Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish, Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA, Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic, again a lot of overlap with Record of the Year, Montero by Lil Nas X, Peaches by Justin Bieber, and Right on Time by Brandi Carlile. Oh, interesting. Brandi Carlile is nominated twice in this category. No Taylor Swift for Willow, which is pretty surprising. But then again, she also has a shot at receiving Album of the Year twice in a row, which is pretty cool. This is an interesting category because I don't always see the most popular songs winning in this category. That said, I don't think Bad Habits is going to win this. Ed Sheeran is known as a songwriter and as a prolific songwriter. This song in particular is not his biggest or most popular. It was very popular, but I don't see it making an impact in this category. I wonder if Brandi Carlile is going to split the vote by competing against herself. I believe she's just featured on the first Alicia Keys song, so she isn't technically competing against herself, but if someone really wants to give the award to Brandi Carlile, they're going to have an even split on which song to vote for, so I don't know if that'll help her or hurt her. Fight For You could sneak in here, partly because it is riding that wave of prestige from winning the Academy Award for Best Original Song. Again, I don't see Peaches winning in this category. It's fun, but it's not quite as serious or prestigious feeling as a Grammy voter might want from a songwriting category. It's more of a fun song. Again, not a bad thing by any means, it just might not be what a Grammy voter is looking for when they are awarding a Grammy. Maybe that'll also affect Leave the Door Open. Kiss Me More might fall under that same effect. Like I said, Doja is seen more as a fun pop singer than a serious, committed singer-songwriter, even though she is a very talented songwriter. I feel like Montero has a better chance in record than in song, but again, I could be surprised here. So I'm going to say the three likeliest songs in this category are Driver's License, Fight For You, and Happier Than Ever. I have predicted Driver's License to win this category since it became very popular at the beginning of the year, and I am going to stick to that. I think it's likelier to win in this category than in Record of the Year. Again, I could be wrong. I would be pretty surprised to see Billie walk away without some sort of general field win, so maybe this is where she sneaks in because Happier Than Ever is a very interesting song from a songwriting perspective, and then Fight For You just has that prestige behind it. So I'm going to say Driver's License at like a 5% lead over those two songs, which are about even with each other. Moving on to Best New Artist, I am anticipating that Olivia Rodrigo is a lock and a lock to win. We shall see. The nominees are Arouge Off Top. Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. I absolutely adore the album Vulture Prince. If you haven't heard it, it is just glorious. Next is Jimmy Allen, Baby Keem, Phineas. Okay, that's really funny. Phineas has won multiple Grammys, including Producer of the Year, and is still considered a new artist. The rules are obviously very gray, but that's very cool. Glass Animals, okay, definitely another non-new artist. I think the hype around heat waves, especially online, has been very helpful to them. I personally far prefer their album How to Be a Human Being, and I highly recommend it. Next, we have Japanese Breakfast. Oh my gosh, yes, I love Japanese Breakfast. If you didn't know, her name is Michelle Zauner. She is a singer, songwriter, director, writer. She recently wrote a memoir called Crying in H Mart, which became a bestseller. Her new album, Jubilee, is incredible. I really hope it's nominated for Best Alternative Album. It is gorgeous. She is an incredible songwriter and lyricist. I've loved her for years. This is amazing. We also have The Kid Leroy, very cool, not surprising. Next we have, oh cool, Arlo Parks. Arlo has received a lot of acclaim this year, that is very cool. Her album Collapsed in Sunbeams was very well received. Then we have Olivia Rodrigo, there we go. I don't see anyone else winning. I think she's a lock. She was always going to be nominated and win, but you know, there could be a twist here. And then we have Saweetie, very cool. She was just on SNL. She definitely is a star on the rise. There are so many great nominees in this category. I personally would probably go with Japanese Breakfast. Jay Brecky, like I said, is one of my favorite bands. Arouge Aftab is also incredible. I honestly don't think it's worth sorting out all of the nominees here. I think Olivia Rodrigo is going to win, but this is a very solid category, and I'm very happy with it. Let's see what's next. Okay, next is the pop field. As far as the genre fields go and some of the other miscellaneous awards, I'm mostly going to be focusing on the awards that I know and care more about. Okay, first we have Best Pop Solo Performance. I expect some overlap here with Song and Record of the Year, so I'm seeing some love for Olivia Rodrigo and for Billie Eilish, hopefully for Taylor here as well. I'm also expecting Justin Bieber here for something, but a lot of his songs had features, so maybe Lonely will end up here, but we'll see. Okay, we have, oh, Anyone by Justin Bieber, okay. Right on Time by Brandi Carlile. Okay, I would expect her to be submitted to the folk or Americana or singer-songwriter categories, but that's very cool. Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. Positions by Ariana Grande. Okay, she wasn't nominated in the general field. Interesting. Okay. She was nominated for Album of the Year for Thank You Next, but Positions didn't receive quite the same amount of acclaim. That said, the song Positions is one of my favorites of hers, so that's very cool. And then we have Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, and that's the whole category. Okay, very cool. Looking back on past pop solo performance winners, I'm thinking that Billie, Ariana, and Olivia have the best chances here. I don't think not being nominated in the general field is going to be a big disadvantage to Ariana, but I do think Driver's License and Happier Than Ever had bigger years, and I think the recency of those songs is also going to be helpful because Positions was released in 2020. My gut is telling me again Olivia, but I think the categories that I'm predicting for Olivia could also be split with Billie. So number 1 Olivia, number 2 Billie, assuming that she wins in some other category, and number 3 would be Ariana. And I personally really like all 3 of those songs, so I would be happy with any of them. Next we have Best Pop Duo or Group Performance. The nominees are I Get a Kick Out of You by Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga. I would expect that to be submitted to traditional pop, but maybe they don't have an equivalent category. Next we have Lonely by Justin Bieber and Benny Blanco. Okay, so I didn't realize that it was technically a duet, but interesting. Butter by BTS, there we go. I'm sure the ARMY is going to be very happy. Higher Power by Coldplay. And Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA. So I'm going to say the 3 likeliest winners here are going to be the 2 that were nominated in the general field, so Kiss Me More and I Get a Kick Out of You, and Butter simply because of the hype around BTS. On the one hand, I feel like the Grammys are going to want to give something to Tony Bennett before he officially retires, but on the other hand, there are these newer and fresher faces that they might be more drawn to. That said, Justin Bieber has been nominated in a lot of categories this year, so I would be pretty surprised if he walks away empty-handed. It's not unheard of though. Coldplay also is a Grammys favorite. I'm surprised that they weren't nominated in more categories. I think maybe that might signal a little bit less hype around them, so they're probably the least likely in this category. I think if there is a category that Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga are going to win in, it's probably this or a traditional pop vocal album. They're probably likelier in the latter category. So my guess is going to Kiss Me More. It's also probably my subjective favorite in the category. I think BTS has a really solid shot. Butter is a super fun song, and Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga do as well. This category I think is very interesting. I don't know how it's going to play out. Okay, and then Best Pop Vocal Album. Okay, Justice Deluxe by Justin Bieber, Planet Her Deluxe by Doja Cat, Happier Than Ever by Billie, Positions by Ariana, Sour by Olivia. Oh, only 5. Okay. Maybe Taylor submitted elsewhere? I also know Casey Musgraves was moved from country to pop when she submitted, and she's not nominated here or in the general field, even though she's a past Album of the Year winner, so that's pretty interesting. Typically what happens with pop, as far as I've seen the last few years, is that they like to spread the love between pop and the general field. I really hope you don't hear the weed whacker directly outside my window. So last year, for example, Dua Lipa and Taylor Swift were both nominated in Album of the Year and Pop Album. I think they both had the strongest chances in both categories, and Taylor got Album and Dua got Pop Album. I think something similar is going to happen this year in this category as well, and I think the two likeliest winners would be Happier Than Ever and Sour. So my prediction is that either Billie will win Album and Olivia will win Pop Album, or the other way around. My unofficial prediction was that Olivia would win Album of the Year, so I'm going to follow that up and say that Billie will win Pop Album, but it could be the other way around. I don't see something else happening, but again, it's all a toss-up. I think after those two, Planet Her would be the next likeliest because it's also nominated in the general field. But yeah, I'm going to go with Billie here, Olivia for general field, or the other way around. Next we have the rock field. Last year rock was really interesting because it was dominated by women, which was very cool. This also contains the alternative music category, which is very much my lane. I'm hoping that Japanese Breakfast will be nominated here, but we'll see. Okay, in best rock performance, we have AC/DC, Black Pumas, Chris Cornell, Deftones, and Foo Fighters. Nothing surprising here. Also, All Men. Best rock song, All My Favorite Songs by Weezer, The Bandit by Kings of Leon, Distance by Mammoth WVH, Find My Way by Paul McCartney, and Waiting on a War by Foo Fighters. Okay, here's something interesting. With the elimination of the secret committees, we also now have a male-dominated rock field. Not a single woman has been nominated in any of these rock categories. So that raises the question, were the secret committees necessary for the promotion of diversity, equity, and inclusion? I personally loved the nominees last year. Phoebe Bridgers and Big Thief and Fiona Apple and Brittany Howard were all very worthy nominees, and I wonder if there were other acts like them this year who were ignored because there was no oversight from those committees. Hopefully though, alternative will be a little bit more inclusive, and I am very excited to see what happens here. The nominees for Best Alternative Music Album are Shore by Fleet Foxes, love that album, very cool. If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power by Halsey, very cool. I would have expected Halsey to have submitted to pop, but I think the album fits here as well, and it's a very strong album, probably Halsey's best so far. Next we have Jubilee by Japanese Breakfast, yes. We have Collapsed in Sunbeams by Arlo Parks, a fellow Best New Artist nominee. And Daddy's Home by St. Vincent, yes, a past winner in this category. I think that gives her an edge here. Of these nominees, I think I'm going to eliminate the only male-fronted act here, Fleet Foxes. I absolutely adore Shore, but I think, first of all, that came out last year, and second of all, that has somewhat less hype than these other albums. Jay Brecky and Arlo are both nominated for Best New Artist, but that didn't help Phoebe Bridgers last year for Punisher. It's probably unhelpful that Halsey isn't nominated in any other categories, but it probably is helpful that St. Vincent has won in this category before, so I'm going to say the three likeliest are Jubilee, Collapsed in Sunbeams, and Daddy's Home. Again though, in the past, St. Vincent has been nominated in multiple categories. She also won Best Rock Song, I believe, for Mass Seduction. The fact that she's not in any other categories will probably also be a little bit unhelpful, but again, this category can sort of exist in isolation, so I could be wrong. I'm going to say it's between Jubilee and Collapsed in Sunbeams. My prediction is going to be Collapsed in Sunbeams. My personal favorites are Jubilee and Daddy's Home, but actually I really like all of these albums. I think Arlo Parks and Japanese Breakfast have had a similar amount of hype this year, Michelle being a now New York Times bestseller and Arlo having won so many awards. I think the awards recognition specifically though is going to give the edge to Arlo. Moving on to R&B, let's see if there are things that stick out here. Best R&B performance, Lost You by Snow Allegra, that's a really good song. Peaches by Justin Bieber. Hold on. Okay, so he submitted to R&B and pop. So he's been nominated for 3 separate songs. Interesting. That makes me even more convinced that he will walk away with an award. I do not think it'll be in this category though, but you know, you never know. Damage by Her. It's Her, come on. Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic, and Pick Up Your Feelings by Jasmine Sullivan, very cool. I'm going to say right away, it's between Peaches, Damage, and Leave the Door Open. 2 of these songs were nominated in the general field, Peaches and Leave the Door Open. Does that help? Does it not make a difference when this is a genre category? I don't know. I personally think that Justin Bieber is likelier to win in a pop or general field category than R&B. That would also be my personal pick, but I also really love Lost to You. Best R&B song, Damage by Her. Good Days by SZA, very cool. Heartbreak Anniversary by Giveon. Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic. And Pick Up Your Feelings by Jasmine Sullivan. Sometimes when artists are nominated multiple times in genre categories but not the general field, that can be helpful to them, like for Jasmine Sullivan, so maybe she has a chance here. Good Days was extremely well received. It's a gorgeous song, so maybe SZA has a chance here as well. Her was nominated in the general field and she's a Grammy's favorite, so she has a chance here as well, but I think she has a likelier chance in traditional R&B. And then we have Leave the Door Open, which obviously was a huge song. My personal pick would be Good Days, but I think the Grammys are going to want to share the love between these general field nominees, so I would say it's going to be between Damage and Leave the Door Open. I think Her is going to win in at least one other category. I also predicted Silk Sonic, so it's kind of split here. I'm going to say maybe likelier Leave the Door Open. That's my final prediction, but if they win in another category, I would say that Her is likelier here in that case. Let's see, now best R&B album, I'm thinking Her. Let's see, Temporary Highs in the Violet Skies by Snow Allegra, that's a solid album. We Are by Jon Batiste, a general field nominee. Gold Digger's Sound by Leon Bridges, I believe another Grammy's favorite, or at least just very acclaimed. Back of My Mind by Her, obviously. And Hotels by Jasmine Sullivan, very cool. Again, sometimes the genre categories can deviate from the general field, so maybe Jasmine Sullivan has a solid chance here. I am putting my money on Her. I think she is always a safe bet when it comes to pretty much any award show now. She's halfway to an EGOT, or maybe even farther at this point. I don't even know. Maybe she's won a Tony that I didn't know about. So with all of that in mind, I would say Back of My Mind by Her is likeliest. Then I would say Hotels and We Are about even. Then I would say Leon Bridges and then Snow Allegra, but all solid nominees. Best rap performance, we've got Family Ties by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar obviously is a favorite of the Recording Academy, and for good reason. We have Up by Cardi B, My Life by J. Cole, Way Too Sexy by Drake, Thought Stuff by Megan Thee Stallion. Ooh, that's my favorite song in the category for sure. I love that song. None of these songs are nominated in the general field. Drake was not nominated for Album of the Year, so I'm going to say that he's not super likely. Cardi B is an Academy favorite, but Up didn't perform, at least critically, quite as well as some of her other songs that have won before. Or actually, hold on. It's just occurring to me that WAP was probably submitted this year but not nominated, or it wasn't submitted. That's really weird. Like, she and Megan Thee Stallion performed it last year at the Grammys. It was like a big thing, and it was like probably the biggest song of the year, if not one of the biggest. And it's nowhere to be found. Maybe it'll be in another category. I would say the likeliest in this category are Baby Keem, Cardi B, and Megan Thee Stallion. Megan won Best New Artist last year, so she definitely has some support behind her in the Academy. But this is also the rare Kendrick nomination outside of an album cycle. Because of that, I would put it between Baby Keem with Kendrick and Megan Thee Stallion. I personally love the Megan Thee Stallion song, so I might be biased. I would love to see it win, but I think Family Ties might have a little bit of an edge. I really don't know. I would say it's about even. I'm going to say number 1 likeliest is Megan, because I just love that song so much. Number 2 would be Baby Keem and Kenny. And then number 3 would be Cardi B. Best melodic rap performance, the one that's springing to mind right now, is Need to Know by Doja Cat, but I'm sure there are a bunch that I'm just forgetting. Pride is the Devil by J. Cole, Need to Know by Doja Cat, there we go. Industry Baby by Lil Nas X, What's Your Name by Tyler, the Creator. Interesting, not nominated for Album of the Year. Really weird. And Hurricane by Kanye West. Kanye is nominated in the general field, Lil Nas X is nominated in the general field, Doja Cat is nominated in the general field, so I'm going to say J. Cole is going to be the least likely. Tyler is interesting because I thought he would be nominated for Album of the Year. The Grammys quite like Tyler also, so I'm not going to write him off completely. Industry Baby was huge. The collab between Lil Nas X and Jack Harlow made a big splash. I'm rethinking that wording. Just because of my gut feeling that Need to Know would be nominated, I'm going to predict that as the winner. Doja Cat's performance on that song is just blistering, so high energy, so dynamic. She raps, she sings, she melodically raps. She's a superstar performer. She is so talented. I definitely see her winning in this category, but anything could happen. I think second likeliest after her might be Lil Nas X. And then I think I would actually put Tyler before Kanye, even though Kanye is nominated in the general field. Just because if they're going to acknowledge Tyler somewhere, it's going to be here. So Need to Know is my pick and prediction. We have Best Country Album, okay. Maybe Casey Musgraves got redirected here and will be nominated, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Other country albums, fingers crossed for the Marfa Tapes, fingers crossed for the Ballad of Dude and Juanita. We have Skeletons by Brothers Osborne, Remember Her Name by Mickey Guyton, The Marfa Tapes by Miranda Lambert, John Randall, and Jack Ingram. Love that album so much. The Ballad of Dude and Juanita by Sturgill Simpson. Yes, he is a past Album of the Year nominee, so maybe that'll help him here, but this album is pretty different. It's an outlaw country concept album, so I don't know if I see it winning, but I adore it. And Starting Over by Chris Stapleton. I think the Academy is going to love the message behind Remember Her Name by Mickey Guyton. I think the Marfa Tapes is just such an excellent display of musicianship. The Ballad of Dude and Juanita is whimsical and nostalgic. And Chris Stapleton is another favorite of the Academy, so I think that's going to put Skeletons at least likely in this category. I would say it's between Remember Her Name, the Marfa Tapes, and Starting Over. I think the Marfa Tapes might be a little bit of wishful thinking on my part because it isn't a very conventional album. It is all live recordings. It feels very raw, but all of the songs are so strong and the performances are so solid. I'm going to say it's between Chris Stapleton and Mickey Guyton. I think the Academy is going to want to recognize Mickey Guyton. She has had a huge year, but the Academy also really loves Chris Stapleton. Right now, my gut is saying Chris Stapleton for album, Mickey Guyton for song. Maybe they'll switch it up. Maybe Mickey Guyton will win in both categories. Maybe she'll be snubbed. I don't know. Personal pick would be the Marfa Tapes, followed by the Ballad of Dude and Juanita. Here, the prediction is Starting Over, closely followed by Remember Her Name. Let's see if there's anything that stands out in American Roots music. For Best American Roots Performance, Cry by Jon Batiste. That is quite the variety of categories. We've got General Field, of course, R&B, American Roots, and Jazz. Very impressive. Love and Regret by Billy Strings. I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free by the Blind Boys of Alabama. Same Devil by Brandy Clark. Oh, Brandy Clark. Oh my god, I read that as Brandy Carlisle. Brandy Clark, yes. Oh my gosh, wait, it's both of them. It's both of them. Quite the crossover event. Let's go. Okay. And Night Flyer by Allison Russell. Wow. Okay. Very excited to see the two Brandys nominated together. I see them being the likeliest alongside Jon Batiste. But again, not super familiar with the field in general. That's so exciting. I have to listen to that song. I didn't even know it came out. Next is Best American Roots Song. Yes, Avalon by Rhiannon Giddens and Francesco Turrisi. I love this performance. So beautiful. If you're not familiar with Rhiannon Giddens, she is one of the best vocalists working today, period, especially in the American Roots field. She is incredible. We've got Call Me a Fool by Valerie June, very cool. Cry by Jon Batiste, okay, he's all over the place. Diamond Studded Shoes by Yola, very cool. Yola's new album is great. And Night Flyer by Allison Russell. Okay, wow. Oh, I would love to see Rhiannon win in this category. Valerie June is also great. Jon Batiste is nominated for about 10,000 awards this year, so he's got to win at least one. Diamond Studded Shoes is a banger, and it's produced by Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys, who also produced Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey. Yola was nominated for Best New Artist last year, so riding that success into another well-deserved nomination. The only song nominated in another category here is Cry by Jon Batiste, so that's going to be my prediction. I would personally choose Avalon, though. It is so gorgeous, so heartbreaking. Rhiannon Giddens makes so much music about death, but that totally makes sense because her music has this very historical perspective that I think is pretty unusual, and I would highly recommend her music. Okay, in Best Bluegrass Album, we've got Cuttin' Grass Volume 1 by Sturgill Simpson. This is, of course, his second Album nomination this year in 2 different genre categories, so that's very cool. I would love to see him walk away with something. I personally prefer Dude and Juanita, but of this category, his album is my favorite. Okay, here we go. They're Calling Me Home by Rhiannon Giddens and Francesco Turrisi is nominated for Best Folk Album. That would be my pick. It also is my tentative prediction. That would be so exciting for them to win. Ooh, we've got some cool nominations in global music. Best Global Music Performance. We've got Mohabbat by Aruj Aftab. Gorgeous song. Do Yourself by Angelique Kidjo and Burna Boy. Pa 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 by Femi Kuti. Bolewu by Yo-Yo Ma and Angelique Kidjo, a double nominee in 1 year. Very cool. And Essence by Wizkid featuring Thames. Angelique Kidjo, again, she might have the Brandi Carlile problem. Maybe she'll split the vote, or maybe this just means she has double the chances to win here. That said, my pick and my prediction is going to be Mohabbat by Aruj Aftab. She's nominated in the general field for Best New Artist. I expect that she'll be nominated in the album category as well. Vulture Prince is just gorgeous. It's so enveloping, so ethereal. Please listen to it. Best Global Music Album, we've got Angelique Kidjo and Femi Kuti and Wizkid all nominated. I personally would go with Mother Nature by Angelique Kidjo, but all 3 of those nominees I think have strong chances here. Oh, that's weird. Okay, Aruj Aftab then wasn't nominated for Vulture Prince. Jon Batiste gets his 10,001st nomination in the Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media category for Soul, obviously, and I think he has a very solid chance of winning, especially considering that he won the Oscar in the same category. However, he is not the only artist in this category to also have been nominated in the general field. Ludwig Göransson also composed the soundtrack to The Mandalorian Season 2, and he also produced and I believe co-wrote This Is America by Childish Gambino, which won Song and Record of the Year a couple years ago. Still in music for visual media, we've got Best Song Written for Visual Media. I'm guessing Her will be nominated here. Let's see who else. Let's see, Agatha All Along. Oh, that is so cool. From WandaVision, what a banger. Very cool. All Eyes on Me from Inside by Bo Burnham. Yes. Unfortunately, he was not nominated in the general field, but All Eyes on Me is such a great song. It's one of my favorite songs of this year, and it definitely deserves the nomination. We've got All I Know So Far by Pink from, I am guessing, Dear Evan Hansen. Fight For You by Her, of course. Here I Am by Jennifer Hudson from Respect. And Speak Now by Leslie Odom Jr. from One Night in Miami. Kind of a stacked category. I would give it personally to All Eyes on Me by Bo Burnham. I think of these songs, it stands alone outside of the context of Inside, but I think the Grammy is going to go to Fight For You by Her because it's nominated in a bunch of categories. It won the Oscar. I don't see it going to anyone else. And that is the final category. So I guess my overall thoughts are that the nominees aren't super surprising, and I think they're actually sort of more consistent and more comprehensible than last year's nominations. I suspect that that's at least in part a result of the elimination of the secret committees, but I think that also might have produced the all-male rock field. I am a little bit saddened by the exclusion of Lana Del Rey from any of these categories, though I guess Chemtrails was sort of recognized in the nomination for Jack Antonoff for Producer of the Year. Overall, this was a strong group of nominees. I think there were so many amazing albums and songs and performances in these categories, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how these pan out and how wrong my predictions are. But like I said, I would love to hear your thoughts and your picks and predictions in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to check the description for those donation links. Please subscribe to be here when I post new videos. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and until next time, that's it.